everybody, Caleb here, and today I've got this guild. I think this is another F50. I will put what year it is from because I'm not entirely sure right now as I'm starting to record this, but this is very similar to the last guild I just did. Both it looks like it, and I think it needs a lot of the same stuff. The neck angle is not great. The action is pretty high, and there's basically no saddle left. However, unlike the last one, I can fit my pick behind the bridge. That's not great. So I think that's where we're going to start. This bridge is lifting. It's going to probably have to come off. I'm not entirely sure that there's not a crazy bulge going across the top of here. Oh boy, fun stuff. So we'll go ahead and get this sat down and get started on taking it apart. So I've got this piece of paper here. And I'm starting to test how far this goes in here because I really want to see how loose this bridge is. And it's not great. It's about as bad as they come before they just come all the way off. I'll try to do this where you can see it. But that much goes underneath that bridge. That is a little ridiculous, actually, that it hasn't just come the rest of the way off. That will not take much to get that the rest of the way off of there, I am sure. Which means we need to get these strings off of here. And I got a feeling this is just going to pop right off of there. Looking at it, I'm not entirely sure that there's not finish underneath the bridge. But anyways, yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll take these strings off of here to get the tension off, and then we'll see what we can do from there. Alright, so I got all the strings off of here, and I'm starting to see how dirty this thing kinda is. While I was taking the strings off, and they're still on the headstock, except for the high E string, which broke. But while I was taking the strings off, I noticed this binding is very, very, very loose. All the way back to the body joint. So that's something I gotta remember to take care of as we go along here. The only thing holding it in is just underneath the fret. So we'll worry about that in a little while, but for right now I want to really look at this bridge. I'm going to sit down. I think you can see there's not a whole lot of saddle left. I'm not really sure if I can get it out of there. This should help. Very, very, very little saddle left in that. And that's not great. Now, the bridge lifting is going to be a part of that. As it lifts up, that's going to take away some of our good angle. And it's going to make the action seem higher. Now that the pins are out, I kind of want to see in the hole as to how far this paper really goes in there, or I'm not running into the pins. Not a whole lot more than it did. It definitely runs into this hole. I can see it, the paper through there. Okay. I think first and foremost, we're just going to take this bridge off of here. I'm going to get the bridge heating tool out and my little palette knife, and it should not take much. This thing is wildly, wildly ready to come off of here. So I'll get set up for that and get that heating up. While that's heating up, I'll get ready and we'll take that bridge off of there. So I've got this thing warm now. My heating iron here. You can see we're up to 425 degrees. We could be baking pizzas, but I wouldn't have much surface to do it. So I'm just going to hold this on here. I don't think this is actually going to take that much heat. I've got my tool as well, and I'm just going to slide it in from the back after I get this a little warm. You can see it dropped a whole bunch as I put it on the piece of wood here. So it's starting to transfer heat. Yeah, you can see it's still dropping. It is a little cool down here, so I wouldn't be surprised if that piece of wood wasn't, you know, a little cool. Soak up some heat. I'm gonna hold it on there until we get back up to temperature at least, because then I know that we're doing good at transferring heat. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside now. I'm gonna start working this in. That should have softened the glue, although I can't imagine it needed a whole lot. I did definitely slide right in underneath those holes, so there's not a whole lot. Oh my goodness. Yeah. This is not much working on this one, which is good. I think that's off of there. That's still going to be warm, so I don't want to go grabbing it really, but it actually came off of there really clean. I'm a little puzzled as to why that didn't stick on there too good. I'll turn this off so it'll start cooling down, but you see that came right off of there. No real, I mean there's some wood, but this is as clean as one could come off of there. There is a little bit of finish around the edges, but really that's not too bad. It's mostly wood. It's warm. Hopefully all we got to do is clean it up and stick it back down. I imagine that'll solve that problem. So we'll let this cool down, and then we can work on cleaning it back up. So we got this bridge off of here. I'm going to start cleaning this up. I think I'm just going to use a chisel and scrape off the old glue. That's pretty good. It's still a little warm. Alright, that should be good, clean, and flat. So, that looks a lot better. Now we just got to work on the top. So I want to get a really good idea of where this is going to sit. I'm going to put 2 pins in the bridge, the outside ones, and then hopefully that'll help index this exactly where it's supposed to go. Yeah, that doesn't sit super tight, so I'm probably going to go the drill bit route so that I know I'm indexing this exactly where it needs to be, because that does not help me too much. So basically what that entails is getting out some drill bits that are exactly the size of these holes here. Too small. That probably cuts it. So I've actually got this clamped down and indexed in, so it's not moving, and I want to just score a really light line in the finish around the edge. So I've got a new scalpel blade out, and it's very sharp, and I'm just running this along the edge of the bridge because there's finish there, and I'm cutting the finish in the perfect shape of the bridge so that when I take the bridge off, all of the finish underneath the bridge I can scrape away, and everything outside of it will stay, and I'll have that perfect line differentiating. The funny thing is, as I clamp this down, the back is sitting more flush than it was when I started. So I'm not really putting any pressure down. I'm just trying to scratch these lines again. I'm also trying to be very careful. with these really sharp blades, they'll like to wander off. So if you're not careful, you'll like do this corner here, and it'll just kind of wander out. So I really don't want to do that either, because I don't want any scratches on the finish. I want looking good. But that's probably good, so we'll take that off of there. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of finish out there. So, especially like right in here, you can see the line, and there's that glossy finish. So we'll just need to take that finish off, and we'll have a better gluing surface for the future. Time to go back to old reliable here. I've got this rounded edged X-Acto blade, and it works really good for scraping that finish. So I'm gonna work on that a little while here, try to get this cleaned up. I don't want to remove any wood. I'm just trying to knock the finish off so we have a clean wood surface to glue to. So I'm starting to look at this now. I've got this cleaned up like really good. Surface wise, I think we're basically ready to put that bridge back on there, but I wanted to make sure that we were sticking this on a surface that's ready to accept a bridge. And I'm just checking bulge. And it's not terrible. I thought it had more when it was under string tension, and maybe it did while it was under string tension, but it's not terrible. I'm going to feel around on the inside to make sure there's nothing loose, make sure the bridge plate isn't coming loose. It actually seems to be fairly solid. Putting some tension on those braces and nothing's moving, so I'm gonna say that's actually probably as good as it's gonna get. While we're here, I'll go ahead and look at the bridge plate. It seems kind of like semantics at this point, but I will just to be thorough. It's rosewood. It's a reasonable thickness. It's not torn up. It doesn't seem to be busted. I'd almost say it's been replaced. I mean, it's in really, really good shape. No, it seems fine to me. Internals look good. Nothing to complain about. So, at this point, I don't see any reason why we can't just glue that bridge back down. It came off, it's clean. I'll get set up to glue that back down, and we'll just go ahead and do it. So, I think I'm all set up to do this. I've got some glue out. I've got a paintbrush and a little bit of water to help clean up any mess we get. So I'm going to start laying down some glue. I'm just going to spread this with my paintbrush here. This helps get a nice even coat across the whole surface. This also helps fit any texture, especially on the soft top. I don't need a ton of glue, I just need glue on everything. And just to make sure we have glue on all the surfaces. I'm going to glue both the top and the bridge. And actually, there's just about enough excess glue to do both. So we've actually got glue on both surfaces now. I bought this pinned bridge gluing down tool a few months ago now, and I really haven't had a good chance to use it, but I think we're going to have a good chance to use it here. So I put the screws through the pinholes and then drop that into those pinholes, and that indexes it right where it should be. So that won't allow the bridge to go anywhere other than right where it should be. There's then some washers and wing nuts to put on the inside. This is probably the hardest part of using this bridge clamp, but it's not too bad. Especially because this bridge plate is in good shape. This should be really easy. I did put a piece of leather under the middle of this piece of aluminum to help keep us from putting marks in the bridge that I don't want. So that pushes down right on the center. Then what I do is I slide some leather in from the sides and then just press these ones down, and those will push the wings down. And we've got some really good tension on this bridge. So that's looking really good. Now we can come through here with our moist paintbrush and clean up all of the glue squeeze out. And there's no clamps in the way. That's good. I want to make sure those wings are well pressed. The wings are definitely the first part that comes undone. But that's actually looking really good. We seem to be pressed in very tight. I got a good squeeze out around the whole thing, and I can still see just like barely a bead around there, which is good. That is looking really good. Okay, so we'll give this a few hours to set up. That wood glue takes, a few hours to be totally sure, and this is such a vital part. We want to make sure that this is as perfect as I can get it, really. So we'll give this a few hours, and it should be good to go. I think we're doing pretty good for under a half hour at this thing. So this had about 5 hours or so, maybe a little more than that at this point, to set up, and it's looking really good. The good news is this bridge is very well adhered. Not lifting at all, can't fit anything underneath there anymore. The not so great news is once I start to look at neck angle, I'm running into that bridge by a lot. I am at least 1/8 of an inch below the top of that bridge. I want to be a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch above the bridge. So we're talking, a 1/4 inch off. That's not a small amount when we're talking about neck angle. The last guild I did also had neck angle issues, and I would have almost guessed that that neck had come loose because there was a seam, a very, very visible seam at the neck joint. This one doesn't really have that. It may just be a poor neck angle problem. I'm not really sure what has caused us to get to this point, but I know what the fix is going to be. And I think I'm going to have to pull this neck out. I am just doing a quick check. These gilds, I think it's been like 3 of these ones where I've looked at the neck block and almost thought that it's come loose from the back. So I think it's just maybe the way they did it. But anyways, it's not that. I do think this is going to be a pull the neck kind of issue. So I guess we're going to pull the neck on this thing. No point in him hawing around it anymore. I'm going to get some tools together and we're going to look at getting started on that. There's a few steps we got to do before we go yanking the neck out of there, but we'll get going on that next. So if I'm going to pull the neck on here, I need to pull this fret out here. It's the fret after the body join, because that'll be about the end of the dovetail. So you can probably tell I've wet it down in order to kind of soften the wood fibers, so we hopefully don't have quite so much chip out. The last one of these I did, which is the last guitar I did at this point, we had some really dry, brittle wood. I don't think this is going to be nearly as bad, but you know, it could be, but I don't think we're going to have nearly the issue. So now I'm just going to carefully try and pull that fret out of there. Just going to run along the fret and get it started. It's coming out of there. It's taking me a little bit of time, but being careful is better on this. You tend to get a little bit less chip out, a little less damage if you're careful. So I'm going to set that fret aside. I've got it with the bridge pins. That's typically where I keep them. And look at this hole here. Not too bad. Actually pretty clean, all things considered. So last time when I pulled the neck out, I unstuck the fretboard extension before I drilled the holes. I think I'm actually going to drill the holes before I unstick the fretboard extension. It's just kind of a whatever I'm thinking about first situation. It's nice to have everything kind of pressed in and not moving when you're drilling, so that the holes line up where you want them to and everything works good. So I'm going to try and do that first, so I don't have to clamp this down and drill the hole afterwards. So I'm going to go find the right size drill bit I need to fit my steamer in there, and then we'll do that. So I've got out my steamer nozzle right here, and I'm just doing a quick measurement. I never keep track of how big this is. We're talking 5/64. I'm obviously measuring this in a fractional measurement because I have to get a drill bit out. And I've actually got my 5/64 bit, I think. Yeah. Ready to go here. So I got to drill 2 holes. And I don't really see where I'm supposed to drill. I just got to eyeball this. And I'm trying to hit the neck joint, the dovetail joint, so that I can get steam in there. That went pretty easy. I'd say I ran through something. So now we're going to do the other side, roughly the same. Same thing, went pretty easy. I had a little bit of a chip there. I'm going to try to keep a track of it. We'll put that back down. I'll put some glue in there here in a second. But, yeah, we'll try those holes. I think it should be good. I I hope that works. The thing about drilling right in the middle of that fret slot is that fret will then cover up those holes, so we won't see them after everything's put back together. So next thing I need to do is start getting some steam built up. So I will do that, and we'll come back and start steaming this. Oh, no, I take that back. I'm getting ahead of myself. Next thing we need to do is unstick this fretboard extension. So that's what we'll do. I'll get out my heater and heat this up, and we'll unstick the fretboard extension. Then we can start steaming this out. I gotta get this unstuck from the top before we can pull that neck out of there. So that's what we're doing. I've got my heating tool out, and I'm setting it right on this fretboard extension to start warming up the glue. You can see we're up to 432 degrees on the heating tool. And I'm just going to start sliding my tool underneath the fretboard extension, trying to get it unstuck from the top. I've got started on it, so it's getting there. It's not fighting me too terribly bad, which is good. I'm not going to bother filming a whole lot of this. This is very repetitive and slow, trying to get glue unstuck, but I'm just heating up the fretboard extension. I'll set this to the side, and I'll try to work my tool in there real careful like. And try to get this off of here. I'll bring you back when we get a little closer to getting it off. So I filed some fret slots on my heating tool. They're not like full depth slots, but they are kind of to help cradle the frets and get a little bit closer to the wood there. I thought it might help on heat transfer, and I'm getting pretty close to getting this thing unstuck. Actually, I think that's it. That's the fretboard extension unstuck. It's just barely unstuck, but that's all we need. Next step is start building up some steam. Getting the, yeah, that's it. Getting the neck pulling jig on here. And start putting some tension on the neck joint. So we're all set up here. All I need is maybe a paper towel to wipe up any moisture we get running out places I don't want it. And this has been building up for a little bit longer than I originally intended, but that's okay. Should be fine. Well, so when I started doing that and it started coming out the other hole, that probably means the two holes are attached. So we should be in the realm. Yep. Hoping it's moist and warm enough in there. I've gotten to the point in which if I flex it, I can start to see some gap along the sides of the neck. I can't really show it here because of the thing that's on there, but it's coming off of there. So I think all I gotta really do is get this a little bit tighter, and we should come loose. I'm hoping. It's fighting me real hard on this one. It really is acting like it's not going to, though. I was pretty sure we were there. Yeah, that's moving. Why are we not moving up? she went. I don't know why it was fighting me. And it all came all at once. Well, I've got this out here, and this has been drying for a little bit longer than I originally anticipated. It's actually dried like all day yesterday. I didn't get to work on this very much at all. So we're plenty dry now, and I'm just trying to clean up any leftover bits or stuff that's old glue, that sort of thing, because there was a lot of old glue. There's actually a lot of old glue on this back face that I've been cleaning off. I've just kind of been scraping it off with my chisel. There's also a lot of old glue in the actual joint side, or the body side here. Needs cleaned out. So I've got a lot of cleaning ahead of me right now. I don't think it's going to be too bad. Just cleaning out the old junk, trying to get this clean so we can maybe fit this back in here and see where we're at. So I've pretty much got this thing cleaned up, but I really need to fix this binding. It's driving me crazy, and you can see it's crazy loose. So I've got this canopy glue out. This is really good glue for sticking plastic to wood. It's kind of a rubbery glue. Yeah, it's good for sticking plastic to just about anything. It doesn't take a whole lot, and it's easy to clean up. So it's good re-sticking binding glue. I'm just gonna put a little bead down the whole thing and then stick this back down. This has been driving me crazy as I'm trying to work on this and move this neck around, and it's just flopping loose. So I've also got the tape out to just put a little piece of tape on there to hold it down while it dries. Hold everything in place. Shouldn't need a whole lot. The frets hold it in place pretty well. And okay, right here, one. And we'll do one at the very end. Alright, that'll hold that in place for that to dry. That won't take a real long amount of time, but hopefully that'll get that binding from flopping in the wind. There's another place on the other side, actually, where the dots are. It broke here. I don't know when it did that. I didn't really notice it before, but I want to get a little bit of glue in there as well, I guess. And glue that back down. I think there's another piece here that maybe have already been glued back on. Not totally sure, but it's looking good. Because I'm running over into the area where I'm working, I guess I'm gonna have to let this totally dry before we move on. But we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on after this is dry, and I can handle it and not have stuff flopping around on me. So it might seem counterintuitive, but I am putting this thing back together basically to check the neck angle. It's just clamped in there, I'm taking my straight edge and I'm running it down here, and I can see it's really bad. So it's not that the neck was loose that we have a bad neck angle, we just have a bad neck angle. It is, it's not super short off of being level with the bridge, but it's still got a ways to go to get it perfect. I'm probably going to go ahead and start shaving the heel to change the neck angle, because that's the way to do this. So I'll loosen this up, take the clamp off of there, pop that neck out. It don't want to come out. It really don't want to come out. And then we're going to take a look at this. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave a little bit off of this end and take it up, wedge it up to nothing. I'll take kind of like this. This is hugely exaggerated. I'll take nowhere near this off of here, but you know, more off at this end and then nothing off at the place where it joins the body. So I'm not changing the point at which it joins the body in reference to like the fretboard. I'm just adding some angle to it. Generally, I like to start off with a small number and work my way up if I have to. And this is also not the most, the easiest thing to do, because you need to keep these lines straight and not tear anything up and not overshoot what you're aiming for. But basically, I like to start with about 25 thousandths, and I'm just going to scratch that line in the heel, the bottom of the heel. Start by taking that much off. So we start with 25 thousandths. Trying to get that line good and scribed. So I got a line for 25 thousandths, and I'll take that off down to nothing. So less and less and less and less off down to nothing. And I'll just do that with a chisel or something. We'll work our way around on that one. And what might also help is to find my 25 thousandths line. Put a straight edge on here. And scribe a line down the side, if I can. Kind of like this. That helps to follow that line to keep everything straight, so we have a perfect join when we come bring the body back up to here. Yeah. Something like that. So I'll get to work on this. This is going to take a little while to keep everything going well. And it's not going to have a whole lot to show, and it's hard to show when I need to see what I'm doing really well. So I'll bring you back in a little bit when I've made a little bit of progress. I've been working on this for a while now, and it's maybe kind of hard to see, but I've got a clamp on the neck. It's pulling down on the heel so I can get all the angle that I can get. And it's finally clearing the bridge, and it's looking pretty good. I think it's going to be just about as good as I can get it. Actually. This has taken a lot more than I kind of thought it was going to take to get this to this point, but it is looking good. The problem I have now, or I can't just glue this in here like this, is that now that I've moved the neck heel, that loosens the dovetail. So now I've got all this wiggle in here, and that's not going to do. So I need to put some shims on the sides of the dovetail in order to tighten that back up. So I'll have to make some real thin shims of some kind. I'll probably go mahogany. That's typically what we do. It's the easiest thing to do, and it's the same thing the block is made out of, so it's not like it's an out-of-place wood. I'll thin that down real thin, and we'll go. Okay, so I got two little shims here to glue inside here. They're mahogany shims. They're maybe a little oversized yet, but that'll be okay. So we're just going to put a little glue on here. I'm going to spread it out nice and even. Not too much excess. And then plop that in there. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. I thin these down pretty thin. They're probably still a little thick for this, which just means I'm going to have a little bit more carving to do when I go to make these fit perfectly. I'm going to try to put a couple of wedges to square this up so I can clamp this a little bit easier. And I'm going to try to get these little squeeze clamps on here. I say little, they're pretty big squeeze clamps. I don't think so. So we're going to just go with this because it's sitting here. And then one more on the top. Alright, so that should clamp that on there nice and good. We'll give that a little while to dry. It's wood glue, so it'll take a little while, but not crazy long. And then we can carve this down. Those wedges those shims I just put in there, we'll carve those down until they perfectly fit the neck pocket. So we should get a perfect fit as we go back in there. I've got these shims glued on here, and I've started shaping them down so they're not any bigger than the actual dovetail is here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some carbon paper, and I'm just going to put that on there, and then we're going to put this in the neck pocket here, which I'm realizing I need to turn around the other way so I have room for the fretboard extension. We're just going to slide this in here until it stops. And yeah, it's only going to go in about that far. It's still got over a 1/4 inch left. And we're just going to kind of press that in there real tight. Take it back out. And that'll leave marks on the neck where we need to carve that's stopping it from going in all the way. So I'll carve those away and then rinse and repeat quite a few more times. So this could take some time to get this all the way in there, but once this goes all the way in there, it's going to be as tight a fit as we can possibly get, because it should fit the contour perfectly. So we knock off all those parts, and then we just get the carbon paper back out, wrap it back around there, and put it back in the neck pocket. We continue to do this, and it continues to take some time. Yeah, quite a bit on there that time. This is going to be a real back and forth process. I won't film a whole lot more. Just taking off what we got, refitting it, back and forth until we get it absolutely perfect. Well, this is fitting really well, and I've got the two clamps out, and I've already started gluing this up. I tried recording, and I think I lost the beginning of this clip, but I've got this all set up, ready to go. I'm spreading glue at this point. I want a good thin coat on the whole thing. And we can set this up, get this clamped up tonight, and have it ready to go tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have this thing playing by tomorrow. At this point, there's not a whole lot left on this. Just spreading glue on the dovetail. It's looking good. I want to get some on the fretboard extension too. I'd like to just clamp the whole thing up all in one go. Don't need a whole lot of glue, just need good coverage. Okay, that's looking good. I'm going to do both surfaces just to be totally sure we've got perfect coverage. Just run this up and down and back and forth. Drop some on the pick guard. This one had a far worse neck angle than the last one I did. I think the last one came a little loose and the neck angle wasn't great. This one was not loose in the slightest, and the neck angle was just bad. So this one was definitely just a poor neck angle overall. The issue was not like that it was loose or anything. The neck angle was just bad. It took a lot of adjusting to get it close enough to being good. But we're looking good now, I think. So I'll set that aside. Maybe just a little bit more glue on here in the crease. And then we'll put that right in there. Now what I found has been working best is to get this clamp that runs from underneath on first. So there's one that I've got back here. It's just a squeeze clamp that I've got running from the tail block up to the tongue, or the bottom of the neck, the heel. And that's just putting a little bit of pressure on it that way. And then take one and put it on the actual dovetail itself. Put a piece of leather underneath it. Kind of helps the clamp from slipping, as well as pads the guitar. And we'll tighten that down. That's looking good. I'll put another clamp about here to help pull that tongue down. Well, that should be working pretty good. I'll get a little bit of water here to clean this up. But we should be in business. I'm just letting this dry, more or less. So we'll let that dry till in the morning, which is kind of convenient since we're going on midnight at this point. Yeah, all clamped up. Should be good till tomorrow, and tomorrow hopefully we can get this thing rolling. I think all we need is to get a saddle and get it maybe cleaned up a little bit better. So I'm going to put this fret back in here now. This set up overnight and then all day today, and I'm ready to start working on it again. And I've got this fret back out, and hopefully it'll just go right back in the hole. That seems to be good. I don't think it's getting much better than that. There's still a little bit of a gap, and then some places that maybe chipped and I needed cleaned up. So I might do just a little bit of cleanup with some glue and some sawdust. But that's not too bad. I think in general, you can't really even see that anything was done. We'll get it so that you for sure can't see it here for too long. That's probably what we'll work on next is the frets. So I'm going to do a little bit of a fret job on this thing. The fretboard itself was in really good shape, so I didn't really want to hit it with anything, so I taped it over. I am going to do a light fret leveling. I did check to make sure the fretboard was straight before I got started here. And we're doing good in that department. So I'm just going to hit this real lightly with my file here. This is mostly to make sure that we're level up in here, and there's some grooves down in here I kind of want to work out. That's probably the end of that. I really don't want to hit that too much. They're not too far out. Grabbing my crowning file now. I'm going to run through here and recrown them fairly quickly. Trying to be time efficient here. These frets up top are getting a little small. They're not too terribly bad, but if this thing becomes somebody's daily player, they're looking at maybe replacing these frets before too incredibly long. Okay. So I'm going to start working out my file marks now. I've got a piece of 600 sandpaper. And then I've got a piece of 1200, I think, somewhere in that range. And this is where we start to get shiny, really, is with the 1200. That should be pretty good. Next thing we'll do is we'll come through with the micro polishing pads. And just do the same exact thing as I did with the sandpaper. This is where we really start to bring out the shine in these things, these frets, as we work our way up. The grits. Alright, so those should be polished up now, so I should be able to take the tape off of here. Once I get all the tape off of here, I think all we really need is a good oil on this fretboard. And we should be just about done. Alright, that's the tape off of there more or less. Last thing we need to do here is oil this fretboard. I'm just going to use some of this Be Good oil, same stuff I always use. Just run a bead down there, and I'll work that in with my fingers. Got a little bit of excess on here, so I'm going to do the bridge as well. We'll take a cloth and wipe off the excess. And knock a little piece of binding off as we do it. So I gotta fix that now. But I suspect it was loose. Not too big a deal. That fretboard's looking a lot better. Let's go ahead and put that piece of binding right back on. The one that just popped off. This tape is not going to stick to that oiled wood very well. Yeah. But that should hold it in place long enough to dry. So, we're working pretty good here, I think. Barring a tiny amount of cleanup, which I'll do off camera, we are ready to start putting strings on this thing. I do have a saddle blank, more or less mostly made. This does go into the saddle slot. It's not the right height by any means, but it was just something I started doing while we were waiting for the neck to dry. It's got some compensation for the intonation on the B saddle, and then it's got a good angle and both a good radius and a good angle on it. So it's just something I was doing to get us going, but it started so that hopefully we can just get some strings going on here before too long and get this thing done. Not too far off now. Give this a little bit of time to dry, and we'll start looking at strings. Well, I've got this up to tune. In order to expedite this, I've gone ahead and put strings on it and everything, and I haven't done any more setup work other than get strings on it and tune it up. It's high, which I expected because this is basically a little more than a saddle blank at this point. Yeah, but it's measurably high, so I know how much I need to take off. It's about 150 thousandths on the bass side. About the same on the treble. So, that's good enough for me. I know that it's 150 thousandths. I need to lower it by 60 and 70 or so. Which means I need to double that, 120 thousandths, 140 thousandths. So 120 thousandths off of the bass side and 140 thousandths off of the treble side. That is a lot, but this saddle is still awful high. So that's acceptable. I'm perfectly okay with that. So now that I spent time tuning this up, I gotta detune it. I kind of skipped over this a little bit here, but when you measure it at the 12th fret, you have to lower twice that amount on the saddle to actually see that difference, how much you want. So if I measured it 150 thousandths and it needs to come down 60 thousandths, I have to lower 120, twice that, to get that change right in the middle, because that is right in the middle of the saddle and the nut. Seem to also be having a little bit of binding on the G-string and the nut. So I'll see what I can do to lubricate that if that's the issue, or open it up if it needs to be. We'll pull those pins now. To 140. So pull that saddle out of there. Then what I'll do is I'll mark with Sharpie, or a thick permanent marker, on both ends. I've been kind of standardizing on doing the front of the saddle. It doesn't matter that I do it on the front or the back. It'll end up the same in the end. We're going to put some more on there, but then I'll grab my calipers and set them to my correct measurement here. Let me make sure they're zeroed. 120 for the base side. So now that that's in, I'll just take this. Yeah, I need a little bit more Sharpie. I'll just take this and scratch a line in there. And I can sand that off to that line, and then I'll take it up to the other one. Do the same thing. I'm just going to do it over here where I can reach. And now I'll just take this to the disc sander and knock it off up to that point. I'll do that, come back, and we'll set this thing right back up, and it should be good to go, I think. I've spent some time cleaning it up while that binding was drying, and then I started stringing it up. I don't see that we're going to need a whole lot more past this. So I ran the fret slotting file down the G-string slot to kind of help open it up. It was the actual size for the G-string, so it didn't really didn't do a whole lot, but I focused on trying to open up the sides a little bit. Hopefully that'll let it slide through. And then I ran some pencil lead in there, just some graphite to help it slide. So I took the saddle down to right where it needs to be, and it's looking good. It's looking about normal. Now all we gotta do is string this thing back up. You would think, as many times as I've done this, I would start putting a capo on here to hold all the strings together. Where they go. And you would think incorrectly if you thought that. I just get a little focused on the task I need to accomplish and don't really think about needing to sort these strings out. It's never been such a hassle that I've decided, oh, I'll never do that again. It's always just been okay. So we should be pretty good when it comes to setup at this point. I'll go get this thing tuned, and we will see where we are. These tuners are properly stiff. They're not like impossible to turn, but you're not gonna be turning them by accident. Which for just tuning is pretty good, but for stringing stuff up, it's A little bit of work. Not too bad. Well, we are up to tune. And we're looking pretty good. There's 90 thousandths. That's looking good. About 80 thousandths. I think it's as good as it's gonna get. That that neck angle was bad. It was really, really bad. This thing is actually going to be able to be played, you know, with the frets. Before this thing, you couldn't really play it. The strings were so high off the frets, you weren't fretting notes. I changed the neck angle a lot, and that even still has a short saddle on it. It's not crazy short. It's about normal, a little under normal, but I changed it a lot, and it's still at this point. Just had a really bad neck angle. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and go set up and play this thing. I played with the intonation while I was tuning, and it's looking pretty good. So we'll go set up, play this thing, and we will be done. Well, we got this thing playing good. I've been sitting around playing with this thing, and it's very nice. Starting to take some of these strings a little out of tune, but that tends to happen with new strings. But this thing's playing really good. I've been really enjoying it. Sounds great. Finally plays as good as it sounds. Hope you enjoyed watching this work on this old guild here. It needed quite a bit of stuff, pulling the neck and the bridge off of there, and there wasn't much pulling that bridge off of there. It was barely held on, and there was a lot of pulling that neck. It did not want to come out, but it turned out really good. It's playing really good, and I don't know what more you could be asking for. So thanks for watching, and I will see you later.